attention, we'd now like to ask a Queen's Hall official to do the safety briefing.
Good afternoon. I'll be doing the safety announcement for you this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Queen's Hall. We are making every effort to ensure that your time with us is safe and comfortable. Please take a few minutes and listen to the following. In case of an emergency, you will hear an alarm. You will immediately but calmly proceed to the main exit located at the southern end of the lobby. You will then make your way to the southern end of the car park to muster point A. If the emergency is at the front of the building, you will be directed to the emergency exits at the east and west corridors, where you will exit the building and be taken to muster point B, at the northern end of the compound. Please remain at the muster points until given further instructions by the safety warden. Thank you and have a nice day.
Good afternoon, everyone. To those of you here at Queen's Hall, those looking at us on streaming services around the world and at home in Trinidad and Tobago, to all of our stakeholders, to members of the media, welcome. My name is Paige De Leon, and today I will deliver a statement on behalf of the members of the Trinidad and Tobago Promoters Association. We have come out on the other side. We are now all living in the post-pandemic reality of 2023. It is, as we all know, not an easy time. Financial hardship has deepened globally. The long-held beliefs about how our societies must be structured are being re-examined. The world is in flux. We here at home are facing additional challenges. We are in a post-fuel subsidy economy. The impact of climate change on the cost of food and the disruption that 8 months of solid rain has caused cannot be underestimated. The steady march forward of technological advancement and the changing energy supply matrices pose an ever-increasing threat to traditional employment models. Yet, we are here, out through the black hole of the pandemic, moving forward. As ever, art imitates life. Our soca artists have captured the spirit of our people in this moment of relief. Voice says in his song Return with Caribbean songstress Alison Hines, all you wake up, time to shake up. We have earned a respite from the trauma of the last few years. We have earned our carnival. Machel Montano, in his transcendent contribution with arguably one of the world's most loved trumpeters, Hugh Masekela, and hometown panside, the Siparia Deltones, has solidly built the bridge between Africa and Trinidad and Tobago. He has cemented the connection between soca and Afrobeats. Montano, meet me down in Soweto. History is made in music. We, as a society that values our art, are bound to listen to the calls being made by our artists to reinvent, reimagine, and retool for the future. We have heard the calls. Now it's time to listen. I speak on behalf of an industry of professionals who have long since understood the need to curate their offerings to entice the world. They are successful. Our event production specialists are sought after globally for their expertise. In Trinidad and Tobago, they represent a select group of indigenous entrepreneurs that have products that are of international standard and considered best in class worldwide. There's no argument there. The fraternity of event producers would like to take this moment to offer special thanks to Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley for his continued support and appreciation for the contribution made by our entrepreneurs. We also especially thank Mr. Noel Garcia for the Herculean efforts made by him and his team of professionals to ensure that the event sector was able to navigate its way through choppy waters over the last few months. Your contribution to this year's carnival has not gone unnoticed. We are grateful. We also want to thank the Minister of Tourism, Culture and the Arts, Mr. Randall Mitchell, for his support. For over 5 years, we have hosted an annual news conference around carnival time to address issues that are facing our sector. One of the things we've consistently addressed is the extortionate demands being made by the police on event producers. We have pleaded for modern, fit-for-purpose legislation to be put into place to ensure that there is a standardization of the event licensing process. We've asked for a private sector-driven stakeholder council that will have a say in how the event sector is managed via government policy. It is worth reiterating that the event sector is the mainstay of our tourism sector. Patrons come to Trinidad and Tobago to go to fetes, to go to concerts, to go to weddings. Events are not just parties. Weddings are events too. The sector has a direct impact on our country's ability to earn foreign exchange, which we all know we desperately need. Carnival is the big fish, so we use this moment to highlight our concerns. The current framework that is used to apply for and qualify for licenses has become impossible for us to navigate. Obtaining a license to host an event was once the largest administrative hurdle to hosting events. It has now also joined the ranks of the most expensive. This is largely as a result of the demands being made by the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. This year, we have seen an exponential increase in the cost of the police and the numbers of officers being forced upon events. One of the incidents we have been asked to highlight as an association is a recently held school bazaar, which had more police officers in attendance than teachers. The current legislative arrangements do give the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service a role in the agreement of the court on the granting of a license to host an event. It was included as a means of having the area superintendent have knowledge of events in the area, and we believe as an avenue for possible collaboration. Over the years, what was once a discretionary allocation of a few officers or so has morphed into hundreds of officers being assigned extra duty at events, at the cost of the event host. This year, the numbers of officers being allocated to events is more than ever. So far, event producers have reported in some cases 10% of their total income is being used to pay the police. Event producers can expect to pay between $30,000 and in some instances as much as $250,000 per event. These assignments of strength are ad hoc, last minute, and without transparency or reason, and we are now forced to say they are unnecessary. The heavy-handed and deep-pocketed relationships with police in Trinidad and Tobago as regards events exists nowhere else in the world. Private security firms must still be paid to provide security for events and do the work that events hosts need done to keep patrons safe and ensure smoothness. We are also hearing stirrings that plans are afoot to increase the numbers of police at events to include specialist officers like the bomb squad and add more supervisory roles in the rollouts of officers to events, and to encroach further into the sector by changing the rules of engagement with regards to venues that have annual licenses. We hope that this is just idle talk and mischievous rumor. We have spent several years trying to negotiate our way out of this unreasonable relationship, and it has not worked. We have failed to garner a reasonable position with the TTPS on this matter. It is not the responsibility of the business community in Trinidad and Tobago to pay extra duty. This is no longer a partnership, it is an obstacle that keeps getting more and more impossible to overcome. The message that is being sent is that our events are not safe, so we need to have more police presence. This is not the truth. We have been consistently told that the crime rates are up, and that's the reason why we need more officers at events. This no longer resonates, and the sector can no longer pretend that we are contributors to the headlines that litter our papers daily of multiple unsolved homicides, and we can no longer be forced to pay for that. It cannot continue. We are now hostages to these demands. As a result, we have taken a decision to file a Freedom of Information request as relates to police intervention in the licensing arrangements to discover what aspect of the court policy mandates this. This discretionary intervention forced upon us by the court is shrouded in mystery. We aim to unmask it and share our findings with you, the public, so you may judge for yourselves. We call for a halt to the trend this year of excessive strengths. It is not helping crime. It is simply crippling the business community. We again call for new regulations, new legislation, new relationships to be created so that we can function. We look forward to a healthy carnival period. We know that economics have a significant part to play in how much participation we see at this year's festivities. We are clear that as a part of the business community, we have a responsibility to show up as our best selves this year. We know that the world is watching, and we in Trinidad and Tobago, at festival time, signal the tone of the global Caribbean-style carnival space. We take this opportunity to ask for your support as we make our contribution to the national economic pie. We ask for your understanding of our role. Many, many people depend on the sector to feed their families. This has not changed in 2023. We welcome visitors to our shores over the next few weeks. We look forward to a safe and joyful festival period 2023, and we look forward to continued collaboration with all of our stakeholders so we can continue to see growth and progress in our sector and in our nation. Thank you very much. I'd now like to invite the President of the TTPA, Mr. Jerome Prasia, to take the podium.
Thank you very much, Paige. Ladies and gentlemen, members of the media, fellow promoters, members of our music and our entertainment industry, all of the stakeholders of Carnival and our events industry, welcome, good morning, well, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. Let me start by saying this has been dubbed the mother of all carnivals. We are excited, we are happy that we are all back outside after facing a 2-year hiatus. It was very, very difficult for all of us as promoters, as members of the industry, for all of the artists who weren't able to make a living for quite some time. And we feel as though coming out of that pandemic and into what is being dubbed the mother of all carnivals, proper protocol was not put in place. Last year when we were in the pandemic, last time we had this press conference, soon after that there was a meeting that was held at the Ministry of Tourism, Culture and the Arts, where all of the carnival stakeholders were invited. We had the people from the airlines industry, the tourism industry, we had the hoteliers, we had the sponsors, the promoters, Tuco, everyone was there. We sat around a round table and we all tried to come up with different plans of how we're going to get ourselves out of that situation. Heading into the mother of all carnivals, nothing like this was done. We had no such meeting. The Promoters Association was left in the dark. We were invited by the NCC to a breakfast, which we appreciated, but that was basically for them to roll out what their plans were for Carnival. No discussion was had. Nothing like that was taking place where we could see what is the projection for Carnival, how do we move forward, how do we put things in place so that this mother of all carnivals would actually be that. From what we have seen so far, it is not that. And this is not to scare anyone, but it is that things were not put in place for us to achieve this. So I would start off by saying that Carnival has begun. We know that Carnival Monday and Tuesday is really the parade of the bands, but for us, the promoters, and for the rest of our industry, Carnival really begins Boxing Day, where that entire season of fete starts. From what we have seen so far, the number of attendees to events has fallen off a bit. So we are not seeing, majority of the promoters are not seeing the same numbers that we would have seen in terms of attendance pre-pandemic, in terms of post-pandemic. We are seeing drops in attendance ranging from 15% way up to 50% drop in attendance at some of the events. Now, on the contrary, we are seeing that some of the carnival bands, a lot of the carnival bands are sold out. A lot of the hotels are saying that they are booked up, and the airlines are saying that they are booked up as well for the flights for the week of Carnival. That's just the week itself. But what about the entire season? We are in an economy post-pandemic that has been hit hard. So people don't have as much money as they would have. We understand this, and promoters are trying to keep their prices down in terms of their tickets so that it is more affordable for people to come out to the events. But we need to have synergy in the industry. We can't be the ones trying to keep our prices down when everyone else is trying to raise theirs. Suppliers have raised their prices, the artists have raised their prices, and as Ms. De Leon mentioned just now there, we are having a big issue with the police service of Trinidad and Tobago. And we are here this afternoon to call them out on it and to say, get your act together. Because it cannot be that we are seeing an increase in the strength for the police for our events that is much more than we would have seen pre-pandemic when we are not having the numbers post-pandemic. That to us is not making sense. We have seen an ad hoc manner in which the police are assigning strengths to these events. So we have cases where the same amount of people, same event, have almost double the amount of police that they would have had pre-pandemic than they have post-pandemic. Where are the police coming up with these numbers? We have no idea. Because we sat with them back in July 2022 in a very, very civil meeting, because we are about finding solutions. We are not about just going out there complaining. We sat with them, we discussed all of our issues with them. They said, they gave us, again, mouth promises that a policy would be put in place. Nothing has been done up to this date. We have not seen any of that. We had spoken to the Commissioner of Police at the time. We were given guarantees that things would have been put in place before we head into this carnival, and they have not. We are seeing that ad hoc way that they would select police officers for events from before the pandemic. Same thing is happening now. And I want to give you all some examples of the issues that we face when it comes to the police. So it's not only the police, it's both the police and the court that we have issues with, because sometimes we get court dates for your event on the day of your event. So you are going out there to get your police strength, which you have no clue what the strength would be until the day of your court date. When you arrive at the courts, they hit you with this police bill. You have to go find this money, pay the police, come back to the court to get it. You have no time to dispute this because your event is probably that same night. Sometimes you get your court date on a Friday morning, on a Friday afternoon, and your event is Friday night. So we would like these things to change. We have issues with the police, and I will give you all some of the examples of figures. There was an issue recently where there was a cooler type event of 500 persons that was assigned 97 police officers. For 500 people, you assign 97 officers at a cost of $53,936. So you all can imagine, this is a business that we are running. How are the promoters supposed to have a viable business if everyone is trying to take advantage of us? This will not do well for our industry itself. It definitely wouldn't. We have police officer bills ranging from $18,000, $38,000, over $100,000 we have to pay as promoters for some events for our police to attend the events to give us. Now, we are not saying we don't want the police at the events. We are saying that there must be a structured approach in how police officers are assigned to these events. We actually sat with them, discussed the issues, and we came up with a risk assessment matrix showing them an idea of how police officers can be calculated. We put it in a full Excel document where you just have to plug in the number of patrons at the event, you put in your different risk factors for your event, and it would let you know how many police officers are to be assigned at the event. Because the problem you face with the police officers is that sometimes you get a good senior superintendent who is knowledgeable about the scenario and who is willing to work with you, and then sometimes you may not. And we can't afford to have subjective approaches to these things because we keep moving police officers from one division to the next. We keep moving them from one rank to the next. And without a proper policy in place and proper legislation in place, this will continue happening to us year after year. Sometimes you might get an understanding commissioner of police, and then you may not get one understanding commissioner of police. Now, right now, we have an acting commissioner of police. We don't know who the new person is going to be as they come in. So that is why we are asking for a proper policy to be put in place, legislation to put in place, so that commissioner come, commissioner go, officer come, officer go. We have proper documentation in place to have this thing rolled out in a more qualitative manner instead of a subjective manner, because quite frankly, as promoters, we are fed up of being abused by the police in terms of they just single-handedly handing us over what strength they recommend, and we can't dispute this. We just have to go with it. So we had cases in the past where a young promoter tried to put on her first event, and she was hit with over 100 police officers. And the week of her event, she had to cancel her event. This was her first time trying out something, and she had to cancel because of the strength that she was issued. And what we are saying is this is not fair to us as promoters. And every other industry would have regulations. Why not the entertainment industry, the music industry? Our culture is an industry in itself. So let us put the respective things in place. So the police officers this morning, we are calling on the TTPS to get their act together when it comes to that, and let us put that policy in place. We are also calling on the Attorney General to step in and let us have proper legislation in place. In the past, we have met with the Attorney General's office. We issued all of our recommendations. Again, we were promised that these things will be put in place. We have a new Attorney General in place and everything has fallen apart in terms of the handover. So we are calling again on our new Attorney General to reignite that flame. Let's get these things back in place. Let us have the proper legislation in place for our industry to flourish. On another note, we want to say some thank yous to some of the organizations who have been making the effort to work with us to help move forward our industry. I must give special mention to COT, the Copyright Organization of Trinidad and Tobago, as they have met with us and we have been going back and forth in terms of determining how we could work better together to help our industry thrive and to make sure that the artists are paid what they are due. As well to the EMA, who has been working with us constantly in terms of making sure that we get our licenses in the proper manner and on time for us to move forward. As well, UDCOT, who we have met with in terms of acquiring venues for our events. So we want to say thank you to those specific sectors who have been helping with us. As well, we would like to announce that the Promoters Association, all of the members have agreed that we are going to be supporting our artists more in this carnival period, where we are trying to help the industry to move forward by introducing some of the newer artists and giving them that opportunity to perform on those stages. So what you're going to see moving forward at all of the different fetes and events is that we're going to have a segment where we're going to feature at least one new artist or one upcoming artist in the industry to help give that injection. So we have those new faces coming in so we could flourish as an industry moving forward. So, ladies and gentlemen, the media, we invite you all to pose your questions as the floor is now open.
We'll take questions. If you can announce your media house and who the question is posed to. Hi. It will be. We took a decision at our meeting last week and it will be filed before the end of this week. We've not made any attempt to become a special interest group. That is not the intention. Remember that this is the private sector. We are not funded by the state. The special interest groups are funded by the state and we certainly are not, and we don't have any intention of becoming a state-funded organization. So that particular avenue is not available to us. However, we have had several conversations with the NCC over the years about our role as a stakeholder, because that's absolutely what we are, but a private sector-run stakeholder.
Want it to be. How do you think you can get a greater, How do you think you can get a greater say about the role that the Promoters Association plays in Carnival going forward?
This is one of the ways of hosting a news conference, of having this discussion with the public, of going to our fellow stakeholders and having conversations. And after many years of having those conversations and not getting the result with regard to this particular issue, we have to explore other avenues. For example, filing the Freedom of Information request is going to offer transparency, so we have a clear understanding of whose role is what. And we're hoping that that will be a first step, and we're also hoping that this news conference will spur the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service into some kind of action.
Good afternoon, Kim Woodram from The Express. You did speak about the legislation. You did speak about having provided your own risk assessments to the police, and then they are, but you're calling for a structured approach from them. But can you give us an idea then of what does exist? In terms of what is required at a fete? I don't know if you want to give an example of a number of people, for instance, at a venue, and what is required or has been in the past. What has been the standard in terms of the required amount of police officers there? And do the fete promoters also typically have private security as well that is also a requirement, or for their own peace of mind and so forth, which is also a cost. I hope I've put that clearly.
All right, so let me start off by saying we do have private security at the event. Every event you would find that we would have private security. In that meeting with the police, they made it very clear that their job is not the job of the private security. So when you have private security at an event, they are the ones who will be manning the doors and working for us. When the police come, their duty is not really to do that. So that is another gray area, because what we have asked the police for is for a clear job description of the officers when they are assigned to events, which is not put in place. So they don't have that. So we cannot see what are the police's role and function when they come to an event. That is not clearly written out. That is what we want to have as part of the policy. Two, when we ask the police, what is the ratio of officers to number of patrons, they cannot tell us that, because that varies from event to event in their mind. That again is how subjective it is. Sometimes we would have an event, as I just gave an example, where you have 500 people at one event and they would assign 97 officers, and then the very next week you would have that same type of event and you would get 20 officers. So it is such a large range for us. We don't know how they come up with these things. Again, they said it's based on a risk factor and is up to the senior superintendent who decides, but that is way too subjective, because we have cases where promoters wouldn't go so well with the senior superintendent for whatever reason. They may have personal issues, and you can't let your personal issues get in the line of your duties. And without proper policy in place, you're going to have where if a police officer doesn't like you for some reason, he could send extra strength because he knows it's going to cost you more money and it will hurt your pocket. So those are the things that we have to get away from. We are actually saying it big and bold that there are some corrupt police officers out there who will do these things to get extra duty and to get extra cash. And that is what Ms. Leon was alluding to, where we are feeling as though we are being extorted by some of these officers. So there's no specific ratio in place, or I could tell you an average of how much officers are supposed to attend an event, because there's nothing in place.
Okay, I mean, I don't know if this is so much a question as to ask you then to respond in your own words that currently heightened concerns about crime are, one of the reasons you may say by you, anybody, that people want to see more police at an event and so forth. But, I mean, in your own words, so then what is, but you just said the risk factors are not clear, then what is being said to you in terms of the role of the police there, if not to reassure patrons for some distance in around a fete of their safety?
So, in terms of us having police at an event, it helps us. It helps us to reassure the public that this is a safe event in collaboration with our private security. So, firstly, we want to say we do want the police at the events, and we do need the police at the events. So, we are not saying that we don't want them or need them. We do need them. What we're trying to reiterate is the number that they send to us at the cost to the promoters. So, it's a situation where if the police feel as though crime has gone up, and they have not had a control over the crime rate, and they want to send extra police officers because it's deemed a hot spot or this is a high risk area, we will fully welcome that, but not at our cost, because we have our bills to pay, and we are not in this to throw fetes for fun. This is a business. This is how promoters feed their families. This is how they put food on the table. And if you keep increasing your police strength and increasing our bills, then we will not be able to make a profit to be able to feed our families. And that is where the problem lies. So, by all means, if they said, okay, if you're having a certain number of people at an event in a certain area, we would send X amount of police. But you know what, guys? We feel as though we want to send some extra officers, and we will do that. But that shouldn't be on our bill. That should be on the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, who want to secure the general public, because they do not have a control on the crime rate. That they want to send those extra, by all means, we will fully welcome that. Not on our bill.
Hi. And I just want to add that at some point, the amount of officers that you have walking through an event starts to send a different message. It's one thing to have officers there so you feel safe, but it's an entirely different proposition when you have so many officers at your event that it starts to feel as though you're in a war zone. And that, unfortunately, is what we're finding ourselves looking at. I've been to several parties this year, and I've had to stand back and watch a long trail of officers with assault rifles and riot gear prancing through the event, and people are dressed in high heels and long dresses. So at some point, we have to look at the message that is being sent with regard to this issue. And I think that's an important way to add a different nuance to the question and the response given by Mr. Brescia.
So, Mr. Leon, what you're saying then is that it hurts the tourism product essentially.
Absolutely. If I travel to a different country and I'm walking down the street in a square and I see tons of police walking all over the place, my first response is fear. What's happening? Is there something going on? Why are there so many police? What is the problem? And that's the thing about messaging. It changes based on how you act. And in this particular case, the amount of officers has now started to send a different message to the population about what's happening. And as I said earlier on, I do not necessarily know that the genesis of that problem lies inside of a party.
And the association would have said before that meetings were held with the police. Do you all plan to have meetings again, or are you waiting to see what happens based on the Freedom of Information Act?
We always want to have meetings. The intention of forming a lobby organization like this is to ensure that there is a vehicle for collaboration. As I said, we've spent more than 5 years trying to collaborate and trying to get this issue to be ventilated behind closed doors, respectfully, in a dignified way. We've not gotten a result, and what we found this year is that it's just 10 times worse than it ever was. So yes, we are always willing to have conversations, but there's a certain point when conversations no longer yield fruit, and I think we've arrived at that place. Any other questions from anyone?
Maybe just out of curiosity or for clarification, how does that payment go? Who gets paid and how?
Right, so now the system is where you pay the police you go to the bank, there's an assigned police bank account because they said they're no longer taking cash. So, we welcome that because we prefer to pay through a banking system. For now, they do not have an online banking system, which we are asking that they put in place so that we could pay this via online bank transfer instead of having to go to the banks to pay this. So you pay it to their police bank account, and then you take the receipt back to the court to show that you paid it in order for you to be granted your license. I would say though, in terms of, you mentioned us having meetings, we are fully aware of the benefits of having these meetings and having these talks, why we want to work together. That's why we asked for that meeting the last time. And we met in July 2022. And we thought it was fruitful. But again, we were giving empty promises. We have been trying to contact them. We haven't been hearing anything. When is the next meeting again? So on and so forth. Carnival is upon us. And this has not been sorted out. There was an open line of communication where if we had issues, that same issue where we had 500 patrons to 97 officers, where we called and something was done. And they were not even aware, the heads of the police weren't aware of what was taking place in that one police station. Again, with the lack of policy, these things can happen right under the police nose. They wouldn't know what is taking place. They didn't know that. So I brought it to their attention, and they had to alter the strength and bring it down to an acceptable level for both the promoter and for the police officers. But again, we would avoid these situations where I have to call the commissioner of police or call a senior police officer to say, hey, this is taking place or that is taking place, because they would have a policy to guide you. So they are open. In past, they were open to having that line of communication, but it seems to be broken. And I'm not sure if what is taking place within the police ranks itself, but what we are saying is whatever is taking place within your police ranks, it is affecting our business. It is affecting our industry, and Carnival is here upon us. So we need to fix this now. We don't want to head into the rest of the Carnival season where people are still scrambling to get court dates. They are still struggling with these large, exorbitant police bills, and then the industry in itself is not a profitable one. And out of all the industries through the pandemic, we were the first to close and the last to reopen. And now we have to be facing this sort of thing with the police, where you're trying to make us bust. You're trying to make our Fed bust because you sending these exorbitant amounts of police is going to cut into our profit margin, and we're trying to keep our prices as low as possible so that we could increase the number of patrons, because we are seeing a dip in the patrons. So if everyone decides they want a cut out of Carnival and increase their fees, the industry itself will fall apart and no one will get.
Alina Dudnas from Loop News. Just wondering if you had a general figure of how much it has its cost so far, and compared to, I suppose, the last carnival. Just a general figure of the cost of these security measures.
So I gave a couple figures. So I was showing it was based on the number of patrons. Now it varies based on how many patrons at the event.
Sorry, I meant a total figure by chance?
As a total figure? No, I don't have a total figure of how much it will cost the entire industry. I would have to get that figure from all the promoters and tally it up at the end of the season to tell you. But I can tell you safely it will be in the millions of dollars, because if you are having over $100,000 in police for one event, and for this carnival period we have over 100 events, then we could do the math and see how much that would work up to.
Hi, Angelo Jetadaya from Guardian Media. So you would have said that you would have had private security firms and police at these fets, right? As somebody who will throw fets and as a promoter as well, when the police are there, what exactly do they do besides gathering there?
Well, you hear any laughter from some promoters, and this is an issue that we brought up with them, is that we as the promoters have to pay these police, and if I be frank with the media, we actually do not know what are the roles and responsibilities of these police officers when they get to the event. We know they are there to protect and serve. In just their appearance, it gives that sense of security, but we are not allowed to direct these police officers as to where you would like them assigned. We are not given that privilege. Even a parade we have asked for in the past, and some officers will give you it, some wouldn't. Meaning, when the officers come to your event, what is supposed to happen is that they are supposed to do a parade, meaning all the officers are supposed to line up so that if you send 97 officers to my event, I am as the promoter, I'm supposed to see a lineup of these 97 officers so I can get a head count to know that the money that I spent is here in front of me. Some officers will give you, some will not. Because again, they would use some of their force to intimidate some of the promoters. So we don't get a parade all the time. The other thing is we have no jurisdiction over where they go, where are they positioned, what they do throughout the night. They rule themselves. We're paying for this, but they rule themselves. What their exact role and function is, again, we don't know. We are only in control of our private security. So they are there to protect, and I could leave it at this. They are there to protect and serve the public of Trinidad and Tobago and the patrons of the event. That is their general role and function. In terms of any details of on the night, what they're supposed to do, no. I can tell you what they do is when you see your license expire, they will be on the stage on time to shut down your event.
Well,
they
I was
will.
now going to ask about the licensing, right? So what exactly does that entail as well? What is the role that plays and what it entails? Not only cut-off time, but what exactly it fully covers?
Honestly, the police are a stipulation by the court. We cannot get our licenses from the court, a dancehall license or your liquor license, without police there. So that is really the sole reason why promoters have to pay police, is in order to get your license. So that was put in place. Again, what they do on the night, I can tell you from my experience, they are there. They just show their presence there. You would not get police officers to search a patron coming in. They will say that's not their job. So our private security members are the ones who search the patrons as they come in. They do not check the coolers. Our private security members check the coolers. They do not show people where to park. Our private security members show people where to park. So again, the police officers are really just there. They will do a nice walkthrough of your party. They will be positioned in different places. But to ask the promoters exactly, if you ask them here now, what does the police do on the night? We can't tell you. They're there though. But if there, and I don't want to be biased, if there is an incident that is taking place, they will be there to intervene. So if there is a fight or some crime that is taking place outside of the event, they will intervene. So we do want them there and we do need them there. But in terms of assigning roles to them while they are there, we have no control over that.
My final question. So what the Promoters Association is saying is that you all are going to be lobbying for amendments to the Theatres and Dance Halls Act. Is that something that you all are going to be doing in the future?
Yes, we will be lobbying. We want to have a total change of the legislation that governs our industry, from the whole method of how we get our licenses straight down to the police strength, fire, everything. We want to make sure that there's a proper procedure in place, even the courts. We want to make sure we have promoters who have submitted their applications to get their license 6-7 weeks in advance of their event. Yet still the court date for their event is a day before their event, or 2 days before, or the day of your event. So it's not a situation where we are submitting our applications late. We are submitting it on time, even earlier, and still we are getting these dates. So what we would like to see is that the court sets up a specific committee that deals with this, and that we do it especially for the carnival period, that this is given priority, because we are thinking that this is a joke to some people, clearly, because if you all are not putting things in place for us, then you don't see carnival as a viable industry, you don't see the event sector as a viable industry. How many more years are we going to fully depend on oil and gas in Trinidad and Tobago to prop our economy up? We have other islands out there who rely solely on tourism. But Trinidad and Tobago is a spoiled nation. We are spoiled with oil and gas, and as a result of that, a lot of the other industries and sectors have been suffering because everyone focuses on that. And I've been to meetings. I come from the oil and gas sector myself, and what we have are called mature oil wells. It means that the oil and gas is soon going to run out. And when that happens, what are we going to do? Right now, we're enjoying the spoils of oil. Oil price is high because of the war, post-pandemic, all of that. When this thing dips and when Trinidad and Tobago cannot supply the barrels, because we already have dwindled in the number of barrels that we produce per year, when are we going to wake up and realize that our event industry, our culture, our people is a great resource that we have and that we could tap into to bring in a lot of foreign exchange?
But how do you all intend to do this? As you yourself would have said, you all would have had meetings over the years, etc., and nothing has materialized. So how do you intend to go about this year ensuring the change or the necessary amendments to that act?
We have to lawyer up, and we have to make sure we put it to the state. We have to make sure that our lawyers get involved and that we file for judicial review so that we can have these things put in the court of law, because we have asked the government of Trinidad and Tobago to step in, but nothing has been done. Everyone is just seeing this as a wine and jam industry. So we have to take it upon ourselves to carry the mantle and tote carnival and tote the industry on our backs as the promoters. Every last one. If you ask any promoter if they are satisfied with the police strength that they have gotten, they will all reply to you, no. Because as much as they pay it and may not complain in the public light, you would find that when we did our poll in terms of all our membership, everyone is saying the same thing. For years, they are feeling as though they are being exploited by the police service. And it's time that we stop. We have over 55 members in the association. All right, so we have any more questions? All right, that's it. So ladies and gentlemen, let me hand over to Paige to give us our closing remarks.
Thanks so much, everyone, for showing up. Thank you very much to members of the media and to the public of Trinidad and Tobago. We wish you all a safe, happy, healthy carnival, and we look forward to continuing our conversations on these issues. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a wonderful day.
Never again. Never again. Hey. Oh, yeah. I out on the road. Hey. Never again. Hey. I'm not staying home. Can't miss me. Double M, double M. Look, I don't book my flight. Tell me friends and family are coming. Hey. Boy, the suitcase packed tight. As soon as the plane touch of Calypso, I see that you touched down. Well done, well done. I hope that you're more than fit and ready, cause it's real rum, real vibe. Soon as I touch the first party, it's shell down. I'm fetting until I'm falling down. I will never miss the next carnival again. Tell them I will never miss the next carnival again. Until the good Lord take me, I'll be jumping up in a party. I'll be on the road with family. I'll be having the time of my life. Until the good Lord take me. Hey, it's carnival. It's bacchanal, yeah. This is the life. Tell the boss I say I'm not coming in. Me and the team out and back tonight. And anywhere that we touch, it mash up, fine. Hey, fine. And if you hear them, welcome to the land of Calypso. I see that you touched down. Well done. I hope that you're more than fit and ready, cause it's real rum, real vibe. Soon as I touch the first party,